Hi everyone, how you doing? Just bear with this for a second while I sort something out. Okay, Hi everyone, hi Instas, welcome back to Moonwatch. Yes, Moonwatch, and if you are new, welcome too. Do consider liking this video and subscribing if you really like what I do. Check the description below, as always, if you fancy a reading with me. I hope everyone is keeping well. Obviously, Miss Corona is not over. Just let us know how you're doing. You can also follow me on Instagram at queerhinny if you are an Instagrammer. I know I'm feeling very weird recently. I've been kind of toying with this idea of veganism and how vegan I really am, and those sorts of issues have really been coming up as Aquarius season proper has begun. But yeah, I'd also like to quickly note for those interested that I recently made 2 videos. One on the new moon and full moons, and the other on the moon just exclusively. So if you are interested in those, you can check them out now, which will add more foundational depth for this full moon in Leo video, and that's the topic of this video, the full moon in Leo. I'd also like to remind you that it is now Aquarius season, and so if you are an Aquarius sun, you can book a reading with me with a discount of 20% off. You just have to book at any time of Aquarius season. My details are below if you want to get in touch. And even if you're not an Aquarius, but you maybe want to buy a reading for a friend, relative, whatever who is, you can do that and still get the discount. Now, before I get into this full moon in Leo, I will say, as always, that you need to check your birth chart to a website like astrotheme.com, and you preferably need your birth time as well as the date and the location of your birth. Put all the information in there and you should get that circular birth chart. See if you have any natal planetary placements in Leo, the sign of Leo. The glyph kind of is like a circle, and then it almost looks like a, how would you describe it? It's kind of like a sperm cell, basically, like a really funky or curvaceous sperm cell. That's what the Leo glyph looks like. Anyway, enough about that. But yeah, check out where you have Leo natally, which house or houses Leo is in for you in your birth chart. And by doing this, you're going to be able to see if this particular full moon in Leo will be more or less significant for you personally, based on whether or not you actually have your own personal things going on there. Alrighty, so this full moon in Leo does occur on January officially 28th, 2021, and it is strongest between 8 and 9 p.m. UK time. This moon and all the new and the full moons up until around May, June of 2021, these are all in the fallout period triggered by the eclipses that we had in late 2020. So we are still closing out some big chapter, so as to settle into a new one come May, June. It's really important, I feel, then, that we channel Leonite energies within this overarching eclipse fallout context. And so what is Leo? Well, very briefly, it's fixed fire. First of all, fixed fire. It's a fire sign. And I know that some Leos out there, by the way, are already really hurting with the fire having been over since Venus left Sagittarius. And for some Leos, losses and letting go is likely to be a continuing theme for those with placements especially on the 9-degree Leo Aquarius axis, because that is where this full moon is occurring. You can check out my new moon, full moon general video if you want, where I talk more about full moons and how they aren't necessarily doom and gloom moments where you need to prepare to lose something or someone, and I provide a little bit more detail. Yes, we are asked around this full moon to check in with our intuition and to see if some of these Aquarian things we've been doing are genuine or not, and to see if there's not an element of extreme apathy which throws us into obsessions and conspiracies that can easily happen now. And there's a weird thing about Aquarian energy wherein it can make us hate humanity while so vehemently, almost with hate, clinging to some particular theory or some download that we think could save us all. So it's like we hate the very thing we want to save, or we're trying to save something we hate. And we can have this attitude of, if only we use our brains, if only you use your brain, use your thinker, you know. And we might treat ourselves and or others in this quite patronizing sometimes way, failing to understand that humans aren't as simple as we might like to fixate a particular thought or theory or paradigm on. Humans just aren't that simple in nature, and it's probably not worth us putting all of our eggs into that holy basket. And I mean holy both in terms of holes, but also sometimes holier than thou type of thing as well. So I feel with this full moon in Leo, that also the grown-ups, they know what's up, but do the kids? That's kind of what I've got for this full moon. With Jupiter exactly conjunct the sun on this full moon, there's some elephant in the room type of breakthrough that we must be aware of by now. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, these breakthroughs or realizations, it's not easy, but for some of us, some of these things are really pretty impossible to miss. For us at this stage, perhaps pride, and with, you know, a very tense moon opposing Jupiter, this pride, maybe it's going to cause some of us to fall down anyway. And Leo, often associated with the heart, is so bold and courageous and confident, yet Aquarius is its opposite and so removed, almost frigid, sparing its emotional outlets for select subjects, like some alien blessing us with something precious. I think this basically will mean a moment where people's patterns of denial are no longer possible, whether they like it or not, and something will have to give. And it could be a big teaching lesson for some people, especially with this being at the 9th degree. Let's not forget also that we are, you know, we're not gonna be that fresh out of Capricorn season come this full moon, and that Saturn is an Aquarius in the sign it rules, and so it sort of holds Jupiter and the Sun and Mercury by the reins with a creeping melancholy and that shamanic sort of outcast knowing, which will for at least a year keep on pulling back these other planets that seek to rush off with bright but not that well respectfully thought out plans. And the kids, by the way, a baby goat is called a kid, well, they're really excited right now. With Mercury leading the Aquarian stellium, a stellium is just 3 or more planets in one sign, and Mercury connecting also quite secretly at this time through a trine to a retrograding North Node in Gemini, which really basically conjures up images for me of kids not learning their lessons and drinking the hot soup too soon, and again, and sort of burning their mouths. And you know, Gemini and Leo, they are often associated with kids, teenagers, youth, but with Mercury building up to an official retrograde around the full moon, and with the moon being quite strongly opposed and squared by the other grown-ups, there's just a need right now for us to not get carried away, to not take advantage of others, to remember also this transition of ours between old and new chapters, and also to not sabotage ourselves, basically. As I said, this full moon in Leo reminds us that the fire is now over until Aries season, at least in terms of the traditional planets, although Chiron in Aries is more and more going to be helping us focus on our vision. And I do have a video on Chiron and that transit, which lasts until like June, July 2021, so you can check that out. if you're interested. So for fiery people especially, this likely isn't the easiest time, or maybe it's a very revelatory time for you when there's much less extroversion and more introversion. I think we have to remember that the last eclipse, which was in Sagittarius, and that this full moon in Leo is kind of like marking this transition from the mutable Sagittarius fire to the fixed Leo fire. And so reminding us of the importance of sticking to the conviction. So sticking, that's the fixation fire, Leo, and the conviction, the beliefs, the morals, these things, Sagittarius. So sticking to things, finding a right way that, and also finding a right way that can keep you stuck in a good way, keep you fixed in a good way, and not sort of going back to certain stages in our lives of being fixated or stuck, you know, the ruts. Especially with Uranus direct right now, we are gonna, at least once, we're gonna fall back into patterns that we thought, you know, cycles where we thought there was something progressive going on when it wasn't really, and we're gonna repeat that and learn again that it's not the rut that we want to go back to. Let's talk about the rat. So it's, you know, the year of the metal rat still, but this year is pretty much done with around about this full moon, with the rat energies very matured and fizzling out to make way for the metal ox and the metal ox year and those energies. So by now we need to be sure that we're staying in the know, whatever that means for you individually, and to avoid increasing drama around this full moon, and to I'm laughing at myself now with my recent vegan sort of revelations on my social media, which was a very like high emotional thing. But anyway, back to you and us. But yes, to avoid increasing drama around this full moon, because Leo loves the drama, for the good, bad, or ugly, and to increase, not increase, but to recognize, that's the sun, your huge, and that's Jupiter, progress, that's Aquarius, and to feel proud about that progress, and that is the moon in Leo. So feel proud about that progress. Of course, there may well be some very prideful or virile, bombastic events or people that you observe around this full moon. Maybe it'll even be you. Aquarian energy does have that tendency to bring out zealous ideological people. And Leonite energy often fills people up with kingly proclamations. So we just have to make sure that if we're doing this, that it's genuine again, and that it's really from the heart, Leo, the heart, and not us just like falling for some cult or like loving ourselves just a tad too much, cough cough, narcissism. Venus, then let's talk a little bit about Venus. So Venus and Pluto, actually, both of them are going to be exactly conjunct in Capricorn around this full moon in Leo. So for me, this is again a reminder that we really need to nip silly mindlessness in the bud, whatever that means for you specifically, and irrelevant, and that we will focus our vibe more on this quiet act of shedding any unneeded loads, as we are still dealing with Capricorn mountain energy. You might have watched, or you might be interested in, my Venus in Capricorn stream, where we talk about this vibe of shedding the load as you climb to this sort of peak or pinnacle that is about to help you close out the astrological year. This also could be quite good with Venus and Pluto conjunct for anyone who's fallen into a bit of an Aquarian zoning out of their dreams or their goals, where Leo and the moon can help us be brave and take care of ourselves. Since another thing about, or another thing that Aquarian energy can do to us is make us feel that we've arrived. We're like, okay, I've arrived, and that this is it. That's it. And there's a certain mindset that will solidify and stagnate, fixed energy, fixed air, and we basically atrophy. We atrophy. And with Venus still in Capricorn, we do not want to be atrophicating. Is that the word? Atrophizing? I don't know the word officially, but we don't want the atrophy. We want to keep making sure that we're climbing while also sort of trimming as well. On this full moon in Leo as well, we might like to think twice before we sort of act on brand new ideas. And I've been talking about this in a few of my recent videos, because Mercury will be officially retrograde just 3 days after this official full moon. So as I've been saying, January isn't the time for too much newness, and especially with this retrograde, it will be quite common for us to start quickly backtracking or outright quitting, and also concluding that some things were too hyped and we have to go back to the drawing board in some sense. But on a final note then, for this full moon in Leo, we have Mars, and we have Mars squaring the moon, and also squaring Saturn, the Sun, and Jupiter in Aquarius. So Mars will at this point be actually breaking away from the recent conjunction with Uranus in Taurus. AKA Mars will be helping us screw our heads back on a bit to get back out there, if, especially for those for whom this relates, but if the Mars-Uranus conjunction had you fall into some regressive rut, then Mars is about to help you get back on track, because Mars knows what's up by now. Mars knows what's up, and if you're a Hinster, you know I've talked about Mars this 2020-2021 year, and this analogy of drinking coffee, and how actions that are being taken with sense, basically, and with steadiness, and that these are the actions and these are the action takers that are the winners right now. They're preparing to start to be winners when the metal ox year comes. Aries season comes as well. Mars will also increasingly help us get an inkling as to what's coming up for us. It's like Mars can see the exciting air of Gemini, a sign which it will transit officially from March 4th, 2021. But in terms of right now and this full moon in Leo, Mars helps us keep that flame sanctified and to keep our pace as well sane and sensible. Taurian energies, but not only, or rather, but only if our assertions and impulses are informed by what the grown-ups have been telling us all this time. That's the key here. Only if we've been informed by that, and we're not, once again, running away with things that are too akin to the kids who are going to be reined back in quite soon. Well, that's all for today's Moonwatch episode. I hope you enjoyed and that it was insightful. Do let me know in the comments where you have Leo in your birth chart and what might it be doing for you around this full moon in Leo. And if you're a Leo, or a Leo rising especially, I'd love to know how you're feeling right now, what's going on with you, because I do know that it's really hard for some of you, and I want you to know that all things pass, that all feelings move along, and that you're never alone, and that at the same time, being alone sometimes for some people is a blessing, so that you can get back to you and your heart and like your passions again. Alrighty, slán, and see you next time. Love yous. Have a lovely Thursday Learn Day. Mwah.